Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Michelle for Afro Expats, and I have the complete pleasure today to speak with Renee Chestnut, and she's going to give us her journey to Mexico. She lives in Puerto Vallarta, so this gives you guys some more people in Puerto Vallarta that can really share their experience, what life is like for them in that particular part of Mexico. I've been there. It's a beautiful city with a beach, and it gives you a whole lot in terms of options for another place to live. You can either be in the city part, or you can, travel a little north or a little bit south and be in the smaller towns, and you're on the ocean. It's gorgeous. I love it. I think it's a great option if you want to live somewhere by the ocean. I love her journey because she's actually spent a lot of time in and out of Mexico over the last couple decades. So I feel like this is a little bit different than someone finding it and saying, okay, I moved 2 years ago, 3 years ago, even though you full-time moved 4 months ago, and I'll let you tell the rest of the story, but she has a lot of experience. So we're gonna just kind of jump right in. I'll let you introduce yourself, like where are you from originally, and just kind of like, how you ended up at this point in your life getting into Mexico full-time.
Hello, everyone. Again, I am Renee Chestnut. I'm actually a native New Yorker, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, Michelle. So thank you for the invite.
Thank you for coming and being here.
Thank you. So actually, I started my journey to Mexico, the country, in the mid-'80s, and I was an exchange student from the University of Notre Dame. I stayed in Mexico City for a year, and that is when I learned my language, my second language, so I am fluent in Spanish.
Nice.
That's when I got to meet Mexican people, learn about the culture. And I had an opportunity to travel as well. When we weren't in class, we would spend weekends. The other students that traveled with us, we'd spend time visiting different locations in Mexico. So that's when Puerto Vallarta and Acapulco both became two of my favorite beach towns. So that's how I started in the 80s, visiting the country. And I used to come back once or twice a year or every couple of years and visit different parts. But yes, I got my start in Mexico City, which is the largest city in the country. So I jumped right in there and took Mexico by storm.
I love it. So with your kind of traveling in the 80s, and now you're in PV, like what was it like? Because I'm sure it was very different, obviously very different, but not just in Mexico City. Mexico City is huge, but like what was it for you? Just like what were your impressions initially coming at the age?
When I first came here, besides missing family and home, I just found that the people were so warm, and I didn't feel like I was being looked at as a Black person. It never became an issue. My skin color didn't become an issue. And so I felt very comfortable. And I was also treated very, very well as we traveled and vacationed through the country because I was an American. So obviously tourism fuels much of the Mexican economy. So as a Black American, I was treated very, very well, special. So that was a really great, perhaps difference, being the one that people celebrated here.
Right. I'm sure that was. Okay, give it a couple seconds. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. This is Michelle for Afro Expats, and I have the complete pleasure today to speak with Renee Chestnut, and she's going to give us her journey to Mexico. She lives in Puerto Vallarta, so this gives you guys some more people in Puerto Vallarta that, can really share their experience, what life is like for them in that particular part of Mexico. I've been there. It's a beautiful city with a beach, and it gives you a whole lot in terms of options for another place to live. You can either be in the city part, or you can, travel a little north or a little bit south and be in the smaller towns, and you're on the ocean. It's gorgeous. I love it. I think it's a great option if you want to live somewhere by the ocean. I love her journey because she's actually spent a lot of time in and out of Mexico over the last couple decades. So I feel like this is a little bit different than someone finding it and saying, okay, I moved 2 years ago, 3 years ago, even though you full-time moved 4 months ago, and I'll let you tell the rest of the story. But she has a lot of experience. So we're going to just kind of jump right in. I'll let you introduce yourself, like where are you from originally, and just kind of like, how you ended up at this point in your life getting into Mexico full-time.
Hello, everyone. Again, I am Lisa Renee Chestnut. I'm actually a native New Yorker, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, Michelle. So thank you for the invite.
Thank you for coming and being here.
Thank you. So actually, I started my journey to Mexico, the country, in the mid-'80s, and I was an exchange student from the University of Notre Dame. I stayed in Mexico City for a year, and that is when I learned my language, my second language, so I am fluent in Spanish.
Nice.
That's when I got to meet Mexican people, learn about the culture, and I had an opportunity to travel as well. When we weren't in class, we would spend weekends. The other students that traveled with us, we'd spend time visiting different locations in Mexico. So that's when Puerto Vallarta and Acapulco both became two of my favorite beach towns. So that's how I started in the 80s, visiting the country. And I used to come back once or twice a year or every couple of years and visit different parts. But yes, I got my start in Mexico City, which is the largest city in the country. So I jumped right in there and took Mexico by storm.
I love it. So with your kind of traveling in the 80s, and now you're in PV, like what was it like? Because I'm sure it was very different, obviously very different, but not just in Mexico City. Mexico City is huge, but like what was it for you? Just like what were your impressions initially coming at that age?
When I first came here, besides missing family and home, I just found that the people were so warm, and I didn't feel like I was being looked at as a Black person. It never became an issue. My skin color didn't become an issue. And so I felt very comfortable. And I was also treated very, very well as we traveled and vacationed through the country because I was an American. So obviously tourism fuels much of the Mexican economy. So as a Black American, I was treated very, very well, special. So that was a really great, perhaps difference, being the one that people celebrated here.
Right. I'm sure that was interesting for you at that age, especially to kind of go from New York City, which, I don't know where exactly, but just going from that at that age into this kind of full immersion and being kind of really received.
Yes, received so very well. And because I like to talk, I learned how to speak Spanish more than I learned even how to understand. So I'd start speaking Spanish and then they'd rip, and I'm like, wait, slow down, so that they could actually understand you. So I don't know, that was the good news, bad news about me learning how to speak fluently, but not understand quite so fluently.
Well, you got to start somewhere. And I think people need to kind of understand that whole process. That's like a whole other conversation, but people have to really like be okay with fumbling around in the language to get better at it.
Absolutely. And the thing is, now fast forward to 2021, I'm here now as a, more full time, and people don't even speak Spanish as expats. It's not a requirement. When people have asked me about moving here, and I'm always happy to share that you don't have to know a lick of Spanish when you come down here. I've met people who've been here over a decade, and Not for nothing, they don't speak Spanish at all.
Mhm.
So you can find yourself very comfortable being in this country. They're very accommodating, obviously.
True.
They're learning English more, the natives. That's a difference. When I
Mhm.
came down here, very few people spoke English. So
Mhm.
I was more, you know, I had to learn how to speak Spanish, but nowadays, most of the people I know that are expats, they don't speak Spanish
Right.
beyond hola, you know, so
Right.
you can have a great experience either way. I just love travel in general, all over
Mhm.
the world.
Mhm.
And I like to let people know how much I respond to their culture and their language, and at least try something like a hello or how are
Right.
you. And that's it. Like you even say in that language, that's all I know how to say.
Exactly. No, I think
Mhm.
that's great. I'm going to take a quick pause and just ask you to tilt, if you can tilt where I can see a little bit more like here. Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. Just so it
Okay.
doesn't look like you're kind of getting,
Just ahead. Uh-huh.
yeah, that looks good.
Is that
Perfect.
better?
Oh, much
Okay.
better. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll edit this part out.
No problem. Yeah.
So what, okay, I love this. I love that I'm talking to you because a lot of folks have just recently moved, meaning within the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I feel like I have a
Hmm.
lot of questions I want to ask you. So first, I know that you mentioned Acapulco earlier. And right now, Acapulco, used to be that hotspot
Um,
city,
right.
I call it the love boat date.
Yeah.
Because I'm dating
She's like,
myself too.
yeah,
I'm
she's
dating
like
myself.
an old dusty gem now.
Right, exactly. But you said that's one of the places that you really still enjoy going to, correct? What's it like for now? Because it had its like glory in terms of people on the outside looking in. And I'm one of them because I haven't been there yet. And I've been kind of somewhat, Acapulco's kind of down where Oaxaca and along the coastline. And then you just keep heading to the northwest, I guess. But what is it now? Like, how is it? Because everyone says it's dangerous, it's this, but then I've heard Mexicans saying, no, this is not, it still has kind of a bad rap. What's it like now?
Well, I can't give you perspective now because I actually haven't been there since 2007.
Oh, okay.
So that's a long time.
Hmm.
It's certainly not the 80s because my last trip to Acapulco was in 2007,
Okay.
you know, and
Well, even then, what was it, because I feel like,
it was still beautiful. They were
mhm,
developing a little bit further out,
mhm,
like the Princess Hotel.
mhm,
So as opposed to the main strip, you
mhm,
know,
mhm,
um, but I just loved it because not just because of the memories of the past, but because the food in that state, as even opposed to in Jalisco, is different, you know. And I
mhm,
love the food, and I love the cliff diving, and there's just it has its own flavor. To me, every state and city in Mexico is so diverse and so different, and I think a
mhm,
lot of people paint it with one brush.
mhm.
You know, they have an image of Mexico, but man, they're the diversity all over is just
Right.
amazing. So I've read it just like you,
Mhm,
that Acapulco has maybe the drugs or the cartel or something like that that's
mhm,
making it a little bit more dangerous.
mhm.
We have that in America.
True.
So,
That's true.
you know, when people talk about the safety, it's to me no different than different states in the United States that have those same issues, but it doesn't mean you stay away from them. Chicago, Michigan, you know, there are a lot of places that someone could peg as dangerous. So I would go
Exactly.
and see it again, but I can't really give you an up close perspective in in this
Mhm.
time frame because it's been like, you know, what, 13 years since I've been
It's
there.
been a while.
So
Okay. So
not 13 years,
you've been in
something like
Puerto Vallarta for just 4 months full time. Why Puerto
that.
Vallarta?
Because it was second to Acapulco,
Mhm,
and I wasn't loving what I heard about. But you know, actually, that's not true. When I lived here, Acapulco was the place. It's closer to Mexico City.
okay.
But if I just had to pick any of the places that I loved Puerto Vallarta because it was more intimate than
Okay.
Acapulco. And it wasn't the love boat. It wasn't just about the tourism. See, Acapulco, everybody knew was where you go to vacation and honeymoon. Puerto Vallarta was the little gem that had all the Mexican culture. Right. And again, that's what I was most attracted to. It wasn't the place where all the expats were. It wasn't built like Cancun and the Yucatan, which I've traveled to, and you can't get me to go to Cancun because it's just, Miami or someplace like that. Yeah. If you're not going to take me into Merida and the little towns, or, Isla de Mujeres, which is a little island where you can get Mexican flavor, then I'm not interested. Right. So I guess I can say that Puerto Vallarta had my heart, but the very reason I moved here was more like a soul awakening moment that I had, a very definitive moment in June. I came here this year. I came here. I did not intend or plan to move to Mexico this year. Okay. So would you like me to share that particular story?
Yes, okay. I'm letting you go. All
right. The pandemic. Okay. Finally, I'm ready to travel again. I'm able to travel. Take my whole family. I'm like, let's go to Mexico. It's close, because I actually came from Arizona. We've been in Arizona for the last decade, native New Yorker, but I actually came in here from Arizona. Okay. So it was very close, just a 2-hour nonstop, gonna get you to Mexico on vacation. I decided to go. My sister says to me, I actually have a timeshare. I'm like literally on a plane, booking a plane ticket to Puerto Vallarta, and my sister's sitting next to me. She says, do you know have timeshare there? I go, no, I didn't. So she's like, I do. Fast forward, I get here, I take 2 weeks vacation in Nueva Vallarta, which is just about 20 minutes north of where I am. And it wasn't quite what I was looking for, but I did go on a, club residence, which is just a new name for timeshare, presentation in Garza Blanca. And I was telling them where I wanted to go visit, and someone asked me, oh, you know about Bayview Grand? And I said, yeah, back in the early 2000s, that was a new development. I almost bought a condo back in 2006. Okay. And as I'm telling the manager this, I start welling up, and that hit me just out of nowhere. Like, why am I tearing up? It was when I said I almost bought a condo on the ocean in 2006 and realized why I didn't is because I have an autistic son who's with my ex-husband. And I didn't think at the time he'd be able to be here or even understand why his mother was so far away in another country. Yeah. So it was because of that very personal experience that I said, no, I can't move here. Okay. But here you are. Right. Fast forward 15 years, my children are all grown. That was not a conversation. And it's the first time in my entire adult life that I realized I had a regret. I mean, yeah. That was one of those heart moments that I thought in my heart that I wanted to make that dream come true that I had that bubbled up in 2006. And in that moment, I realized, wow, you really want to be here. And I went home in June, and I literally packed up the house, put stuff in storage. I had to renew a passport because I didn't have one, and told my family, I'm out of here. Yes. And I've done so many things in my life traveling that they didn't even do any pushback, my whole family.
They didn't even blink twice.
That was really life affirming for me to know that my soul was saying it's time. You can defer dreams, you can pray for things, you can defer dreams, but eventually if you listen to your intuition, you're going to go where you need to be. Absolutely. And from the moment I chose, within 6 weeks, I was right here in this most fabulous apartment. Oh, and I am living my dream, and I am so thrilled.
I love it. How brave. That's very brave. That's a a brave, endearing story that connects to, like you said, it just kind of happened where you were hit with this moment of, oh, this is where I was in 2006, and this is where I need to be. Like now, fast forward, like you said, I
That's
love
right.
that, and that's very big for you to just say, okay, go in there, packing up, and now I'm going to do this because this is the time for me, and
Exactly.
there you are. And like you said, you can look out at the marina
That's right. You look
and
and
take
watch
it
all the
all.
crews come in and wave to the visitors. And so many people just stop you on the street and ask you to tell them how to do it because they actually want to. And a lot of people want to pick our brains, those expats that are here. But at
Absolutely.
one point, I tell people, they're like, how did you? I said, you just have to jump. You can only
Exactly.
research but so long. You can
Exactly.
only ask so many questions. But if something in your spirit is resonating, and I'm one
Yes.
of these spiritual people who follow
Mhm.
my intuition.
Mhm.
And at some point, you have to stop researching. You have to stop asking questions, and you
Yep.
can go. And like I
Exactly.
tell people, we don't have balls and chains on our feet. If you don't
Yes.
like it, you can always make a different choice. But at some
Absolutely.
point, if you don't give yourself permission to do something bold and that takes some courage, then you might not live out your dream, even if it's a
Exactly.
year dream.
Exactly.
Just
And
try it.
don't wait. I mean, if you can, I always tell people, there's the spontaneous moment, and I get it. There's some people who can do that. But like you said, I had a son, I had other obligations. I wanted to, it didn't happen at that point. But
Right.
here you are, but it's also kind of like one of those things, you make a little bit of a plan, and then like you
Mm-hmm.
said, you go, you make it happen, you jump in the water, and you can, let's say sink or swim. I feel like you figure things out as you
You do.
go through the process. You find the right people, and I really believe that that happens to us in every facet of anything we aspire to do. It's sort of like it starts with the thought, and then
Yeah.
with time we start to open ourselves to other doors that will suddenly be like, oh, I was just talking about this, or oh,
That's
now I
right.
met someone who knows ABC, and you start connecting these dots. So I'm
Absolutely.
so happy that you're kind of like, okay, I did this in 6 weeks. That's
That's
brave.
right.
I did mine in about 5 or 6 months. I was like, okay, my son has to finish kindergarten, and I'm just
Right.
going to take my time. And, it was still like a lot of work. I was downsizing. We were like
Mm-hmm.
going through all our stuff. My husband's like, oh, maybe we could do this in 30 days. I was like, no, that sounds like not enough
No need to
time.
pressure yourself, right?
But I remember even in the planning process and really feeling like I, made a lot of like things happen in a short period of time. It still is one of those deals where you're like, you have moments of anxiety. You're like, "Oh, okay, and then you go through it. You keep pushing through,
That's right.
and then when you get there, it's so rewarding. I mean, it's so rewarding because you look around and you're like, I'm in freaking Mexico.
That's right. You give yourself a pat on the back that
Yes.
it's a minority of us who will jump out
Yeah.
of a situation at home or wherever that you're living that you're unhappy. If there's something calling you somewhere else,
Hmm.
it behooves you to go find out what it is. But it
Exactly.
does take work, and there's no magic here inside of there's nothing to work out. Of course there is, but
Right.
you work it out on the ground. You can't work it out in your head, right?
Exactly. And it's very
So,
different for everyone, that whole process and that journey. But I feel like there's tons of examples around of people who've done it, and you just pull from that. You pull from that.
right.
Like that's why I said to you, it's so brave of you to just be like, okay, this is my time to shine. This is my moment. And I think that will resonate with a lot of people. People will see this and say, okay, I'm going to do this. I mean, I have conversations often with my clients, and
Mm-hmm.
some people are just like, okay, bam, bam, bam. Like I had one recent client and she is doing her thing. I'm like, okay. She's like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. She came here for a research trip. She found like
Mhm.
3 realtors, went to a bunch of different houses, signed the lease, went home, put her house on the market. She's just like,
Right.
I'll be there before Christmas. I was like,
Right.
okay. And then there are others who are like a little more methodical and they get a little anxious, but it's like everyone has their process. So in saying that, just like you, just like, this is my moment. I'm going to do this. And I feel like it's really amazing how we kind of have this transformation. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like,
Mhm.
I need to really feel this in this moment. I need to have this. And sometimes people need that encouragement. Like they need to feel like, oh, okay, so
Absolutely.
yeah. Because I have people call me, they're like, Michelle, okay, I need you to talk me off the wall. I'm
Oh,
so nervous. I'm so scared. And I'm just like, no, it's okay. Just take it in chunks. I always tell people, don't try to see the end, like
right.
stop trying to see the end of the road. Like like you
That's
said, you're just going to another country,
right.
just south of the US. You still have your friends and your family.
That's
Yes,
right.
you're
And it's a journey.
uprooting, but it's okay,
That's
you
right.
know?
And there is a big community, again, something that was very much not here when I used to visit back
Mhm,
in the day. There's a big community
mhm.
of Black expats. And when I
Yeah,
found them on Facebook, I was shocked. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
a Facebook group just for Black PV?
yeah,
know? So
yeah.
for me, that was like a big deal. And I thank those who have, put us together in that way so that you almost have, well, you do have instant community if you're
Yes,
willing to reach out. Now, we
absolutely.
bring ourselves with us where we go. But if you want to find community here, it is very easy because
Yes.
everybody is open and wanting to connect and share. And then you find your niche and those that you
Mhm.
might, hang out with more. But it's definitely a warm place, not just with Mexicans, but also
Mhm.
with expats.
Exactly. And I
That's
think that people need to understand too, a lot of these communities have popped up in just the last 1 to 3 years. And I know Black
my,
PV is one of them. I think it's Tamara that runs it, I
yeah,
believe,
mhm,
or one of
genre,
the
yeah.
admins. Yeah.
Yes,
And I
animal,
haven't met
yeah.
her personally, but we've talked about also, doing an
Mhm.
interview together. And it's just
She's an
kind of,
amazing resource. This girl has this
yes,
place down pat.
yes.
Like
And
I
that's
think
what you
everyone
need.
calls on her. She knows this place, the
Yes.
ins and the
Yes, and
Mhm.
that's what you need. I mean, I think even for me being in San Miguel initially, and I
Mhm.
said this on several interviews, initially, I didn't think that many people would be interested in living in the mountains because I think I'm always kind of in my mindset like we all want to go to the beach and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, there are people who just want to be somewhere else. And,
Absolutely.
I created also this group. And little by little, there are more and more of us here because it's like we're
Mhm.
shining little spotlights all over Mexico.
That's
PV
right.
one, obviously Merida's, kind of popped up, Mexico City. I mean, I've spoken to people in city of Oaxaca, and just it goes
Mhm.
on, and it's like we're growing. And even if there's just like a small group, I feel like
Sure.
everyone has something that they're attracted to about
Absolutely.
wherever it is that they end up. So this is amazing.
And the weather where you are is a little more temperate too than
Yes,
this hot, humid weather. So there's definitely going to be people interested in the mountains. And
right,
some of us in PV even talk about spending the summers in different places.
right,
So in the mountains to cool down. So just like
exactly.
again, in the United States anyway, you can
Mhm,
travel to different places. The same if
exactly.
you choose to have a residence here doesn't mean you can't find a little vacation spot maybe in the mountains or
Right.
somewhere.
More affordable than in the US.
That's for
Just saying.
sure. Absolutely. Yes, the lifestyle is definitely going to be easier to achieve here, the kind of lifestyle that a lot of us aspire to have back home.
Absolutely. So what's the like the Black expat group like for you in living in? Because I know they're online, but do you guys kind of get together and do things? I'm a part of the group, but it doesn't always show up because I'm not overly active. Uh-oh, what's that sound?
Well, when I first got here, within a day or two, there
Mhm.
was the first post that I was able to go to.
Mhm.
And when I showed up, they gave me life. It just
Nice.
affirmed how much I wanted to be here, needed to be here, and had made the right decision. So for me, it was like being back in college days where you have your friends and your community that you're just meeting, but it's a love
Yeah.
fest. That is
Right.
how Welcome Black PV, we meet at restaurants mostly.
Right.
And for me, that was just literally everything. I felt
Okay.
like they were my sisters. You know, there weren't as many guys at that particular one, but the girls, they were open and warm.
Mhm.
And we do a lot more chatting online, yes, because a lot of people are not here just retired like back in the day. Expats
Mhm.
were retired. Now there are a
Mhm.
lot of young people here, or people who are in
Working.
the midst of their, right, they're in the midst of
Mhm.
their career, so they're busy. So,
Mhm.
and plus, because of COVID, I've been told that the gatherings are sparse as opposed to the way it was when the group
Mhm.
first started.
Okay.
You know, they
Yeah.
were meeting really regularly, and now not as much. So I've been able to go to, say, maybe kind of like one a month, but
Okay.
there, every day there are at least a handful of new people that
Mhm.
pop up, and they've been reading Black PV, or so they want to know where's the next place, or where are you guys, where are you, because I don't see you, we're not big
Mhm.
enough that you're going to be, we don't run around in a group,
Right.
we're
It's spread out. I mean, I feel like when I was there last summer, even though it was the height of COVID,
Mhm.
but I remember meeting a mom and a daughter, don't remember their names. And just, yeah, on the street, I think I was booking like a kind of a touristy thing. Yeah, I wanted to go uh, zip lining. We were doing like the whole
Mhm.
zip line and a few other things. And they were passing by, and my husband saw them, and then we were talking to them. They were very nice. And I feel like one lived in PV full time, maybe the other was visiting. I don't remember. And then we met another couple that was, where was it? We met them. Hold on a second. We met another couple. Sorry, our gas guy just showed up. And they were just like, oh, yeah, we just moved here. We've been living here for a little while. But, you will see us around and about. But yes, there's that support, online where you can find what's happening, the social gatherings. And I feel like that's key. Even
Mhm.
here in San Miguel, like sometimes I'll throw something together at the last minute and people will show up,
That
and
oh,
it's either by
definitely.
chance. Like last night, we had a by chance kind of showing up, some folks that were just by chance parked in the parking lot across, and they happen to be Black. And there's guys outside telling them to come in. And then there was the group from the online info that were like, I'm going to
Mhm.
be there. I'm coming. I'm coming. So they ended up having like a really nice turnout for this art
Mhm.
exhibit that was the grand opening or whatever. So it's just kind of interesting because I feel like we're out and about, or we're kind of like these loners in,
Mhm.
these cities and places. And then you, like you said, and then suddenly you're like, wait, there's a whole group here, or there are
Right.
people, ways to find each other. So in saying that, I want
Absolutely.
people to look online and do a
Mhm.
search. Even if you're not on Facebook, it's a great source for information to find groups in Mexico.
Absolutely.
If you're visiting or you're planning to move, there is a group out there for you. There is a YouTube channel out there with information for
Right.
you. People need to kind of like realize, like, I just need to get on here and
Yes.
find my tribe. We're here.
That's right. That's right. I mean, obviously, because I've been here before, you can find your tribe by hitting the ground and then talking to people. But
Absolutely.
we're not all that brave all the time.
Right.
So obviously, the social media has made it so easy to
Mhm.
find someone and things to do. And even if you're not trying to just meet people, the
Mhm.
information that you want is out there, like the post UX expats, just for like expats in general, not for Blacks.
Right.
there's a wealth of information, even if you have no
Absolutely.
intention of being with those people. So
Absolutely.
I would
Right.
recommend anybody coming here, so you don't feel that isolation. If you come by
Yes.
yourself, you can come by yourself and you can immediately have
Community.
people to support you in a
Mhm.
community, even if it's a
Mhm.
community of one. There's so much available, and we are out here, and we make it a point more and more to speak so that we
Exactly.
can, support each other.
Exactly. And I feel too, like I always tell people, I may not always have time to connect in person, but, feel free to send a message or, ask questions or whatever. Like there was a couple visiting last night and they were like, we found you online. Da, 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 da. And then they were saying they were having a great time, but they had not had like a amazing meal yet. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, where have you eaten? And I was like, why didn't you
Right.
reach out to me? They were like, we didn't want to bother you. And I
Bothering
said,
you.
just send me a quick message on email or something, I feel like the city is small enough where, you can still have like that community, get to ask questions. Hold on one second. Sorry, he's like talking to the gas guy and the
That's
exchange is not always clear because of the language. So yeah. But anyway, there's like that whole thing where people kind of think they're bothering you, but I feel like because our Black community is kind of small, it's not a bother because I always find it a good thing to welcome people in some capacity. Even like I said, if I can't meet you, I still would even like to connect you with someone else that might know something or
sure.
might be doing something and at least introduce, like, hey, so-and-so is here. Or I tell people just post on Black SMA, like I'm in town or I'm coming. Someone asked like, where's, how do I get from the airport to wherever? And usually there's someone that responds, even though we're small, someone will respond to those questions. And it instantly makes you feel like, oh, okay, I have help. I have something or someone
That's
to
right.
rely on. And I think that, in these messages, it's like I think, are starting to more and more adapt the culture of Mexicans and how helpful they are because they're helpful to us. And you can
Absolutely.
definitely lean on, like we start adapting the things that are happening around us. And, like it's okay, ask that question, don't ask me a million questions,
That's right.
but I'm here
Yeah,
for you. Yeah, like let's
yeah.
all support each
I was
other.
just, I'm sorry. I
No,
was just thinking about, it's no different than I was in New York and moved to Arizona and I didn't know anyone. And when I
mhm,
moved there, I was talking to someone in the grocery store asking them where the church was, like, because there aren't that
exactly.
many Black people in Arizona when I moved there 20
Right,
years ago.
right.
So that's what you do. You ask what you need to know,
Absolutely.
and then, you know, everything that you need starts flowing your way because you have to ask. So if you are
Exactly.
someone who's comfortable with social media, you're going to get everything you need from there.
Hmm.
And if you're not, when you're out and about on that vacation or when
Right.
you're, thinking about moving, you just ask someone, and people are usually so willing to share.
Absolutely.
People like themselves, so they're open
Exactly.
and ready to share and make this move much easier if you're thinking about moving here.
Yeah. So how easy was it for you did you find your place through a realtor? Because I know you speak the language. Like, was it pretty easy for you to find your space or no?
I actually did not find it through a realtor. I found it through one of my new sister friends on
Cool.
Black Community. So
Okay.
they helped me. They helped connect me.
Hmm.
I do have a realtor because I will be moving soon.
Hmm.
But people are just, if you just post what it is you need, you're going to have 1,000 people answer what you need.
That's
Finding a
true.
place to live here is by far the easiest thing we do. Find a place,
Good.
because there are so many places here. So that's
Okay.
never going to be a problem finding your spot. You just have to
Right.
be willing to go out and look
Right.
and know that it's very diverse. So if you don't like the first thing, do not sign, do not buy, do
Don't
not rent,
stress.
don't stress, you will find it.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of
Yeah.
people, like I did, came and
Mhm.
stayed somewhere like an Airbnb or a hotel for a little bit,
Right.
so you can get the lay of the land.
Mhm.
But post, if you want to do it beforehand, someone very close to me posted what they were looking for, found it before they landed, saw it as soon
Mhm.
as they landed, and that was the end of their journey. I'm
Exactly.
looking for my perfect spot on the ocean, so I'm not
Mhm.
taking anything that doesn't fit.
Right.
So I'll be looking continually, but
Well,
yeah,
good
people will
luck.
be
I'm sure you're going to find something because, yeah, there's only ocean over there. But I think that that's great advice because sometimes people, kind of get caught up with having this like very ideal list. And it can be frustrating because I do think that um, locals will take you to whatever and hope that something sticks. So don't get frustrated by that process because they don't have like, the online MLS where you can just kind of, I like this, I like that. I mean, some people will have like their online stuff with pictures and things like that, but this is what we're used to. It's a convenience, but it
right.
doesn't exactly happen that way. I think we do sometimes have to put a little bit more effort and work in. And in the effort and work, you have to also understand that realtors aren't going to work as hard for you. They definitely make their money and they kind of earn their commission in the same capacity, but it's just the process is very different. So I like what you said about staying somewhere temporarily until
Mm-hmm.
you
Right.
find your thing, and also expect to have it be a little bit more work. It doesn't just necessarily happen overnight. Some people can find that and it happens, but sometimes you probably be better off taking your time. There's a lot of word of mouth happening in Mexico versus the technology
Yeah.
thing, and you see something online, it might be dated, but I always give people, especially my clients, when they book with me, I always tell them, try to just, get here, make sure you like you said, get the lay of the land, make sure you like that neighborhood.
That's right.
San Miguel is amazing. There is the whole, living in Central, but it's noisy, like there are
Mhm.
canyons
Yeah.
going off and you name it. So, as beautiful as the homes are and it's centrally located, it's a vibe. Like it really is a whole thing
Feel it.
living in Central. It's really beautiful. But you
Mm-hmm.
also need to understand there's a lot of things that can be irritating that people, because I see people posting all the time on all the expat pages. It's not just mine. What the heck is going off at 5 o'clock in the morning? And I'm like, you are in Mexico. Don't get
That's
mad.
right.
It doesn't happen
That's
all the time, but it's enough. And when it does, it's really loud. It can scare you out of your bed. Like if you're sleeping, suddenly you're on your
right.
feet. You're like, what? You get used to it.
Totally get it. Because I
Yes.
have the most magnificent, I have a $10 million view and it is noisy as heck because I
Yeah,
got 11 lanes of traffic in front of me. So I have to
exactly.
remind myself when I'm like,
Yeah.
that, do you want that view? Because with that view comes this noise.
Exactly, exactly. Even when we were in Mazatlan, I was like, I picked my Airbnb. It was on the ocean. It was beautiful. The sun set, it was just beautiful. Like you said, this view was to die for, but it was noisy as heck because we were right on the ocean, the Malinking or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
It was so noisy. And I thought in the night, it reminded me seriously of Ocean Drive in Miami. Just
Okay.
cars going up and down, blasting music all night long. And I was just
Yeah.
thinking, like, if I lived here, this would not be it. So that's
Mhm.
the point. It's like, don't just look at one factor, like, really take your time and do your
That's right.
search. And sometimes it can be a little bit like, okay, they did not bring me to anything I asked for. But again, they just like, oh, let's show them, maybe let's see what happens. Maybe they want to buy something.
Yeah, they're not real estate agent. They're not realtors like we know. They're
Yeah.
agents, and everybody can be one. And
Yes.
they just want to sell or rent the property they have. So
Right.
sometimes they're not listening to you, but my agent has learned if I say this is my budget and this is what my top three, then
Right.
that is what I'm gonna wait for.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't even call
we
me, right?
right, right, and she does. But you have to be patient. And living out here is like living in New York City. You know,
True.
like noise, honking,
Yes.
taxis. So, but it's diverse. And then you can go somewhere else and it's pin drop quiet,
Mhm.
suburban neighborhoods.
Mhm.
That's what's the beauty of even where I am. It's so diverse, even inside this little town, this little Bahia, PV is as diverse to me as Mexico is as a country.
Nice.
So
In what capacity? Like what
got the
capacity?
mountains because when you said it's water everywhere, well, we're we're on we're on the water, but there's
Mhm.
not water everywhere because if you're in the middle of this island, you won't see water for 20 minutes.
Right.
There are plenty of neighborhoods where you don't know that you're on
By the
not an island,
ocean.
but you won't know it. There's
Mhm.
quiet suburban neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Versailles, Los Gaviotas. These are some of the fluvial. These are some of the places
Mhm.
that we tend to take people when they ask about living in the suburbs or in a house versus a condo,
Okay.
and more affordable than the ocean. So
Okay.
everybody can't be on the ocean. And one of the biggest misconceptions, and I had it. So if I would share anything, if
Mhm.
you've been here in the past, even the past 5 years, the price point has gone up quite a
A,
bit
a lot.
from, so you're not going to get here. I have so many people coming here with the budget that they think Mexico or this place
Mm-mm.
brings.
Mm-mm.
Sorry.
Especially not in
I had
PV.
to learn the hard way. I kept asking. Right. Yeah. I
Mhm.
kept asking my agent, where is the $800 prices? And she's like, you're not getting on the water for that.
Yeah.
So, uh, and then I've heard in places like Guadalajara or maybe where you are, their prices more in the price point that people were thinking, but
Mhm.
not here in PV, which is very advanced.
Right.
As far as, we have the Costco and the Walmart. It's like a
Mhm.
little
Yes, I
less
know.
over here. And
I mean, if people are willing to give up, maybe the ocean, being close to the ocean living, then
right,
yeah, you can still get a lot of
right.
conveniences of Puerto Vallarta, but it all depends. I mean, I think your point is very well taken, where even San Miguel the prices have gone way up in the last probably decade or more, but really in the last 5 to 10 years. However, you can still, you can still find something that might be in that price range. But as you said, you're not going to get some $1 million view in a beautiful home, right?
Right. You're not going to get your entire wish list. We're not going to get our entire wish list. So you just have to make your top priorities, right? But
Right.
definitely, every price point is available. Just every price point isn't available on the water. So
Right.
that's the good thing to know. And people have, managed their expectations.
Hold on a second. Can you hear me? I can't hear myself, or hear you rather. One moment. Starting to get some weird feedback.
Yes.
Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, it was weird. I started getting a whole echo, almost like, is it, sometimes when you're traveling and then your phone suddenly goes through like a weird spot and then you're getting like the feedback. That's what happened. And I was just like, I'm not even moving. I'm just sitting in the spot. Okay, I can hear you. But no, yeah, what we were saying about just finding a space. So I always tell people, like, if you're not overly picky, because some people aren't, they don't care where they live. They're like, whatever. I am picky.
I am
It
too.
yeah, it sort of becomes then, all right, how much is your budget? And yes, you can find a space, but you may have to look a little harder, look a little longer. And,
That's right.
you can probably find somewhere where it does fit in your budget or negotiate. That's one thing I love about Mexico. I feel like it's definitely is a country where you can really negotiate a little. Like if you said, I want to stay here, I'll be here for 2 years. Can you give it to me at this? Sort of like a guarantee that they're going to get this money, you know? So
Yeah,
it's always worth asking. I always tell people, ask the question. It's a 50-50. It's a yes or a no, 50-50 chance. So you
that's right.
really,
You negotiate, and the longer you stay, the better deal they usually give you.
right.
Um, but to put it in context, because most of the people, that we're speaking to come from the States or Canada,
Mhm.
is still a bargain compared to home. It's just
Absolutely.
not the price point that it used to be if you have some idea that you're gonna, live with everything on your wish list for
Exactly.
a bottom budget. This is $1 million view by far in Southern Cal. And I'm living like I'm on the ocean in Southern Cal, the same
Exactly.
Pacific Ocean down the street.
Right.
So if you compare it to home, you're gonna live like a king and a queen with
Mhm.
half the budget. It's just not as cheap,
Right. As you might
as it
think it is. It's right. And I
is.
want people to understand that. And, I think too, people come with just what you said. It's like, I want cheap, I want cheap. And, but I want to, and it's like, you have to realize that, first of all, it's less expensive, like a lot less expensive, the cost of living overall, but also being very mindful of, how much does this affect the locals, Mexicans in your neighborhood or your area or whatever, and you're reaping the benefits of that. So sometimes I just say, don't complain about a
Right,
taxi fee going up,
right,
or someone even occasionally, we know this happens, we get overcharged because we're foreigners, but when you put all, like you said, put it all in perspective, it's like,
right.
okay, you would have spent $20 going 3 blocks in New York City, as opposed to, oh, someone charged you an extra dollar than from what you heard online. Don't get mad about that. Like, they probably really need it. And I
And don't
always,
get mad if your lights blink, okay? Don't get mad if the infrastructure is not the same. We definitely have to park our expectations of the
right,
way a country,
exactly,
works at the
exactly,
gate.
exactly. And
And
just be open to the experience,
absolutely,
you know?
that's why I'm glad I'm here, not because I wanted to save money, even though
Mhm,
that is a wonderful thing.
mhm.
I encourage people, don't come here just because it's cheap. Come here because you
Right.
really want to be with a new culture and
Mhm.
experience Mexico's warmth and their love, and that they put people first. The reason their
Right,
houses are not everything like some of ours is because they don't make that the priority in life, to work just to
right.
have, everything the Joneses have.
Perfect.
They are about family and friends and partying,
Yes.
and just, if they can pay their, rent and their bills,
Mhm.
a lot of them are happier than we will be filling our house up with all the things we think we need to be comfortable.
Right, exactly. I think that there's definitely deeper meaning for, their culture, and we all are really blessed to be able to experience this. You know what I mean? Because it does give us a different way of looking at life and appreciating each other for what it is. And they definitely are about family. I love when I get invited to a Mexican household, and I get there, like we did this recently. I made a short video about it, but it was just kind of, and I think they were just so like, how, are you okay? Like, do you like it? I think there was some apprehension about what I would think about this
Right.
experience. And I loved it because I remember thinking, there's nothing fancy going on in this moment. Fancy is in foreigner, American, United
Right.
States kind of viewpoint. It was just, we got there were like dogs everywhere. They were just sitting out there showing me all their plants and flowers, and they were in all different like kind of pots. In the US we'd be like, gotta be perfect pots, and go to Home Depot and line them all up, and they have to be pretty. And girl, no, it was like a milk cart
Yeah,
can of this, that, and it was beautiful, and the grandma showing me
absolutely.
everything.
Feeling,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and there's like, a couple different like smaller homes on this one property, and it's like open this fence, and there's cows and donkeys, and it was just what we would consider needed to be like kind of different in the view.
Mhm.
And everyone was just having for the kids were running around. Micah jumped right in. They had there was like a baby cow in one area that, I'm thinking to myself, why isn't the cow there with the other cows, And there was a rooster in a pen. It was just all over the place. But
Right.
it was just this feeling of come and sit down. Would you like something to drink? Do you want this? Do you want that? And we're just talking, and the grandma kept talking to me in Spanish, and I was just like, okay, like lo siento, mi español es muy mal. Like she was just like, and she just kept going on, and she was asking if I wanted some of her homemade cheese. I was like, sure. And it was so beautiful. It really was. It was a beautiful thing. And I never had someone put it to me the way you just did, which is the culture is more about taking care of their loved ones and spending time with their family and friends, as opposed to, putting such an emphasis on presentation of the material things
Absolutely.
around us. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And it's a heart thing. And you would be surprised, if you're used to a certain standard, how much that shifts when your mind isn't just about material things.
Absolutely.
Because being here, there's an energy, there's a feeling. All of that you just described in some people's minds sounds like absolute chaos.
Yeah,
And you probably had the warmest feeling
I
of being well
did.
taken
I
of,
did.
you know, and that's the thing. They want to take care of you. People,
Absolutely.
many have stopped traffic to help me get across the street when I
Hmm.
have bags in my hand. I'm trying to like traverse all this traffic. My gate man, he will jump up. People help you here, and you're like,
Hmm.
wow, let them help you. You
Yeah.
can take a step back and be helped here. And
Yes.
it's just a great warm feeling that a lot of us have never experienced before. But to
Right.
me, it is what's priceless about being in Mexico.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, when you move beyond, like you said, the high expectations and everything's supposed to be so orderly and operate because this is what I know, whatever, there's a lot of imperfection, but there's also kind of a lot of imperfection and perfection within all of that. It just feels like it makes sense, and just be open to the experience. I always tell people, just be open to the experience. Don't get too crazy. I mean, we all are going to have days that are challenging. So don't want to make this sound like it's some big blueberry muffin in Smurfville, because it's
Not
not. But,
right. No,
it's like also take in and appreciate that you are in another culture, you're in another country, another language, the things that we understand. Like for me, sometimes some things feel like they take too long for no reason, little things, stupid stuff, right? And I literally have to talk to because I'm pretty chill in general, but sometimes I'm like, this should take 10 minutes or less. I'm gonna run in, I'm gonna get my little coffee, I'm gonna run out. And then I go in and it's like, I'm looking around and I'm like, what's going on? Why is it taking so long? Like, and I just breathe. I'm like, Michelle, better. Like,
right.
this is not going to be a quick. So it's not their fault that you didn't give yourself an extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So sometimes I think this way because I think in the US, we're so used to that quick culture mentality and having everything at our fingertips. And within that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying this as it's a bad thing. It's just like within that, I think we don't also appreciate what we have, we're just like, we zip in, it's like, I need my Starbucks, or I need my whatever. And then we zip out and we're drinking it and we're driving, we're not
Right.
slowing down to even be in the
Right.
moment sometimes. So I
Right.
think too, There's the joy of having things happen quickly and it's right there. I can drive up the street and go to the dollar store and find a bunch of things like, even Halloween. I was just thinking the other day, like, my God, where do I go to buy some stuff to deck? I'm like, do I have anything here from last year? So I'm thinking about the US sometimes with those moments where I'm like, oh, if there was a dollar store, I could just go and run and buy a couple decorations and throw them on the door. And I have to stop and really think this through. And this is because of where I live. I'm sure in PV it's easier, but we don't have a Walmart. Well, we have a bodega, which is supposedly owned by Walmart. I don't even know. I don't go there too much. But going to Querétaro, it would be a lot more convenient in a bigger city. But my point simply is sometimes I have to stop and think about these things, and that's okay, because then it becomes a little more meaningful where I'm not just grabbing things. I'm literally like, well, what exactly do I need and what's available? And then I just take my time and I'm like, okay, I only need this 1, 2, 3 things. I don't need 10 of them, so that's also cool.
I had to check myself coming here as a fully grown adult as opposed to back in the college days. And I had to remind myself, I'm like, Lisa, you're in Mexico. The favorite word is mañana, tomorrow.
Yeah, true.
Remind yourself that you're not getting it like that. And I literally talked myself off the roof too when I started getting angry at service that seemed to be taking too long. And the minute I reminded myself I was in Mexico, I shifted my whole point of view. And then I just, my agent, my real estate agent, missed 2 appointments, kind of par for the course.
Right.
So don't be in a rush,
exactly. And just give yourself that time. And I always say, give some grace, throw some salt on it. I mean, I've had guys that are supposed to come. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be there tomorrow at 9. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's 9, 9:30, not 10. I'm like, dude. So I'll send a quick message. Are you coming today? Oh yeah, we're on our way. We're almost there. And then I just think like, Michelle, like, don't schedule anything else. Just do that. Just let the whole day be.
Whole day forget.
Yeah. You actually can, because you're not rushing to that 9 to 5. So, like that's the whole thing right there in a nutshell. Don't get too angry or bent because it happens and they're not that concerned about being there and exact about everything. Like we were looking even about a month or so ago at some land. We were just, curious. I'm learning as I go. I'm not necessarily looking to do it right now. And I was just like, who owns this? Just trying to get that, it's like, well, some guy, he lives over there and it's his older gentleman and his son, and he might be here tomorrow at such and such a time. And I'm like, I don't want to drive all the way out here if he's not going to be here. And it's like, oh, well, he came on this day at this time. And I was like, well, nobody told me, so I wasn't there. So, it's just kind of one of those things. I think to myself, well, maybe that's just not the space for you. You just keep looking and keep learning. Right. And don't get mad about it. Like I initially was like excited. And then I said, this may be not the right area or space because they're not really coming with all the info that you need. And that's okay. So just keep doing research and slowing down. There's no rush because there was no real plan for anything. Yeah, exactly.
It's for you. It's coming back.
Exactly.
So that's kind of what we have to get in the flow of, that. So
yeah, slow it down.
To talk about when you mentioned no, like pie in the sky, no blueberry muffin, it reminded me of yesterday being Dia de los Muertos.
Right.
And I ran across the street to Walmart and it was a madhouse and I was so overwhelmed. I came and plopped down on my bed and I started talking to my family that maybe some bad spirits had come up the ground because it was just crazy energy, right? And my mom, she's like, oh my God, what are you talking about? I said, Mom, it's all good. Even paradise in PV can have its challenges.
Exactly.
So, I'm having a moment. So no, it's life and life throws you all kind of moments. So this
Mm-hmm.
is not to say that everything is beautiful all the time and it's no, sometimes people are ignoring you, they're cutting you off.
Yes.
It's like it's
That
just
happens.
you
You're so right
roll
about
with
the
it.
cutting off. You cannot, like, it has happened to us. And I always chalk it up to they're from Mexico City. I don't know why
Yeah,
I say
yeah,
that. It's kind of silly because a lot of people come here on the weekends from Mexico City. And I feel
hmm
like the city vibe is very different. Like, you're still going to get culturally,
that's
the
right.
welcoming nature of, the Mexican people, but they are like that. New York, like, come on, let's go. Let's,
Diverse group of people,
the
you
drive-in.
know.
Yeah, so that happened to us a couple days ago. We were in the ordering a coffee. Yeah. And we
Mhm.
were standing, I really don't even remember, but I think he thought we had ordered and he kind of, right there behind me. He's probably right here where my hair was. I was like, so I kind of turned and then he made like a motion, like,
Oh,
and like, are we done? And we had not ordered because the person didn't acknowledge us yes, because they were doing something. And
right.
yeah, so, it was weird because when he stepped in front of us, I thought, did he think he didn't really ask, like, are you in line? Did you order? Whatever. It was just kind of like this notion. And I looked at him and my friend looked at him. And it wasn't a big thing. It was just weird because it felt almost like I don't know what he was asking me. I don't even get it. But next thing you know, he's placing his order. And I thought, it wasn't even on him. The person could have asked, like, hey, no, they're next, or they were here. We didn't order that. Nothing was said. It was just kind of like he looked, he made a nod thing, and then he just stepped. And we were like, we're right here. So
A
I was
rude
like,
person, like we would think back home, rude.
yeah.
We
And
would just
normally back home, you would have said, like, so I
have the
kind of said,
language
like,
skills at home to deal with it,
yeah,
right?
well, he understood me because I said to my friend, I
Okay.
was like, oh my God, he just cut in front of us. I'm like, and then he let me know he knew English because when he went over to the side to do something, it was like he said one word in English, nothing mean, but I think he just
Right.
thought we were done and we were
Right.
like, we're waiting for the lady, whatever. So it was one of those moments where I literally said, he must be from Mexico City because people normally are a little bit more chill. They're not so
Right.
like, I
Be
need a coffee
different.
right now, you know?
That's
So it does
right.
happen, don't want to make it sound like everything, like you said, blueberry muffin. It does happen. The energy can be crazy. And also acknowledging that it happens sometimes in spaces where people are a little bit more stressed. I mean, I feel like we're not that stressed in San Miguel, but when I go to
Mhm.
Querétaro, it's a different vibe. I mean, overall, like I said,
Mhm.
culturally, the people are always warmer than what I've experienced in other places or even growing up in
Mhm.
the US in general. But
Mhm.
it does happen where, I think the city, because it's a faster pace, people are
Mhm.
kind of like this a little bit more. Even driving, like San Miguel is super courteous with the driving, people are crossing the street, you stop. You can't do that in Querétaro. You cannot do that in Mexico. You can't do that in the city. You will get
You
run
cannot do
over.
that in TV. So let me just,
Yeah. Yeah.
notice
Yeah, and
driving is
even
crazy.
exactly. And here it's like kind of still old town, we get to like the four-way stops or the one-to-one, and it's like it's just a given that you stop and you let that next car go, and there's no like the right of way, like on the main road. It's awkward. I had to
Mhm.
get used to it. So it's like, main road and someone comes out. It's like if they got there before you kind of slow down. I mean, they'll still look out, but it's different. And I feel like, okay, it's a safer city to walk around in, drive in, probably way less accidents and stuff because people aren't like, but when I go to Querétaro, please, they will not let me in. I'm like, okay, here comes my New York driving out. I'm like, okay, I'm getting in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people have asked us, pedestrians there's no pedestrian right away here,
Nope.
not a Mexican rule. They will like run you down
Yes,
if you
exactly.
don't move up. That's the way you're gonna feel. Obviously,
Yes,
they're not trying to hit you, but you got to be careful. So there
exactly.
are these things
Yes, differences.
Like like in any place, there are people who are not acting right. It's
Yeah.
not homogeneous. There's no one paintbrush for everybody or every place. But
Mhm.
that's also the beauty of the place as well, that there's so much diversity. And we're still bringing our attitude too. A lot of the times we're bringing
Yeah,
our attitude to
we
the
are.
table.
I
So
agree
we
with
have to be
that.
careful of thinking that, oh, everybody said it was this way. Well, you might want to just check in with yourself and see where, you might have participated in a particular way. But in
Absolutely.
general, you are going to find so much love here, so much warmth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
And
think PV is a great city for people to check out if you really want to be by the beach. Like I've spoken to people in Playa, Tulum, and I mean everywhere, and everyone's kind of found, not everyone, but I think a lot of people find their happy space and place,
Mhm,
and I just like to promote like a face that's familiar in places that may be of interest or you didn't hear about or knew a little bit about it. And Puerto Vallarta is definitely a very viable option. I think it's still pretty affordable. I was quite actually impressed personally with Mazatlan because it has, I don't know, there was just an interesting blend of still Mexican culture in the interior. Like they have a place that's called the Square. And the Square reminded me in the way it looked and the layout a little bit of West Palm Beach, where, there's like this whole interior, like kind of a courtyard thing. But then the buildings and the architecture was very similar to here at San Miguel, very
mhm,
kind of Spanish colonial, the really beautiful colors. The pace kind of, was a little
love,
slower, but then on the
mhm.
ocean side, there's like a stretch where it felt like South Beach. And I was like, okay. However, I must say that that stretch on the Malincon went on for 8 to 9 miles, I believe, something like that. And it
Mhm.
changes quite a bit. And it was very quiet. It was very beautiful, not too overdeveloped. You could go all the way to one end, and there were restaurants on the beach, and it was just the food was amazing. I was really
I
impressed
love
with the food as the city goes. So the point simply is there's PV, there's Cancun, there's, where I live, there's city options everywhere. And I think, people just have to take the time to do the research and also soul search. Where do I want to live? Like, what does that scene look like for me? There's plenty of options. Mhm.
Absolutely. If I could just make one point
Sure.
about PV, because I've been to Mazatlan also.
Mhm.
I thought it was sweet and a little bit slower paced than
Yeah.
PV. So for me, being a New Yorker, I needed a little bit more action than I
Mhm.
got in Mazatlan, but not crazy like Acapulco. So that's kind
Right.
of where PV fit in the middle of those two.
Mhm.
Um, the one thing I do want to stress, as you've made the point about PV being on the water, for people who want to be on the water,
Mhm.
there is there's a lot here that's not just on the water, because people live up in the jungle,
That's
in the
right.
mountains.
That's true.
The Sierra Madres are here.
Mhm.
So if you want it to be a little bit cooler and you don't actually want to be on the water,
Mhm.
you can still find a place here. Um,
Outside
so
of that
right,
area. That's true. I haven't seen
beach.
those places myself personally, so I guess I don't think of that, but that's a great point.
Yeah.
Like how much or what's the distance? Like what kind of distances are you talking about when
Um,
you're like if
I
for
think it
example,
was about an hour, 45 minutes to
okay.
an hour. You start getting
Mhm.
up into the
Mhm.
mountains, into the
Mhm.
jungle.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah,
I
like
love that.
it is a completely different vibe. It's cooler.
Mhm.
I literally see the mountain here right out the window and the water here. So it's
Mhm.
not just for the beach town people. And then
Right.
there are people who live way out, like they're on a chicken farm, out on a ranch. And that does not give you a beach vibe at all. I mean,
Yes.
they're out there. So there's jungle. So I
Right.
just kind of, you don't have to just think of PV as your
Beach.
ocean place.
Yeah. No, I like that you pointed that out because when we were there last year, I remember now that you said it, I met another Black young lady. She had been living in PV for over 10 years. And she had, I think her husband was originally Mexican, but they were in Cali and decided to move to PV. But I remember her saying, I live out. And it was about an hour because she was coming into town. She's like, I'll come and I'll braid your hair for you. I said, okay. And she brought her one or two of her daughters, and she was telling me about this experience and that his family was from, I don't remember the name of it, but they lived on a ranch. And she's like,
That's
we're
right.
out, we do this, we do rental items for parties and things like that. But
Hmm.
I forget exactly which
Yeah.
direction or where, but yeah, it was a ranch. I remember her saying, I live on a
Right.
farm. And I was like,
That's
okay,
exactly right. So you can be a
yeah,
farmer in TV.
nice. That's so interesting. Yeah. That's because, yeah,
Yeah,
people just see the pictures of the ocean and they're just like, beach, 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 and that's it. Yeah, but
right.
there is
That's
jungle.
make the point so clear because now a lot of people are going up to the waterfalls and showing different parts of PV than just the Malecon and just the ocean.
Right,
And I'm remembering, oh yeah, that's right. And you can go right up in the jungle. You can
right.
literally live in the jungle. You can live on acres of land.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's not beachfront living if you're taking that part of and PV, is just we say PV, but there are many names for the different locations. So we're not
True.
talking right in the heart of PV. We're talking 45 minutes, an hour outside.
Right. What is the really quick, what does the real estate look like in those areas? Do you know by any chance?
Actually don't. I
Okay.
don't know the prices because I only know the prices in the area I want it to be.
Right.
So
Hmm.
this is on the water areas, yeah.
Hmm.
But as you go, the further you go inland, the less expensive it is. I
Hmm.
know people who can find a place for $500 a month,
Wow.
you know,
And be
as opposed to
comfortable
say 1,500 for
or
waterfront
more.
or like in
Right.
there. So
Right.
yeah,
I mean, I feel like there's always a space. You just, it really
absolutely.
is kind of how convenient or inconvenience, I say inconvenience because I feel like it's just a personal choice. People always ask, like, what's the cost of living, which I know is an important question, but I feel like, your rental cost of living is always going to be a lot less for the most part in
Hmm.
Mexico, in most places. It's just
Yes.
on you to kind of either do the legwork or be okay to maybe be in a smaller space or a different space than whatever you might have, pre-visioned for yourself. Even moving here, I knew that SMA, let's say San Miguel,
Hmm.
uh, is a higher end city, but
Hmm.
I've seen things that were
Hmm.
$500 a month. And,
Hmm.
you just kind of have to ask the right questions. It might not be like, for example, there's a development next to mine that's a little older. It's not as
Hmm.
interesting to look at as far as the exterior colors. But I saw a space over there. It was a 2-2, it was $500 a month a couple months ago. It might not be
Hmm.
that now because it's high season,
Hmm.
but I'm sure it didn't go over 1,000. So, and it was fully furnished and, just need a little TLC. But I do
Hmm.
think that, yeah, you can have a little bit of everything. You just have to have the time to look for it and also the patience and also be a little
Absolutely.
open, like, for example, let's say you found a place that wasn't like perfect. It's not the
Right.
most modern, ultra modern, perfect. It just built it, in the
Exactly.
last 2 years or whatever. You can
Hmm.
come in and say, you know what? For only 500 extra dollars, I can probably make this place shine, and
That's
hey,
right.
yeah, and it's not expensive to hire someone to kind of fix a few things. Yes, it's not yours, but it's yours
You
if you
could
live
do
in
it.
it. Yeah,
That's right. And a
make
lot of
it your
landlords
own.
let you do that. Some
Yeah,
people have found places that have been a little less expensive and they've been
yeah.
able to fix it up. But I think, Michelle, when we talk about things like what's the cost of living in Mexico, if someone asked me,
Mhm.
what's the cost of living in America? What would the answer be? It would be depends on where
Expensive.
you live. I mean, there is no blanket answer to that question. And the
Right.
same with this big, diverse country called Mexico. It
Exactly.
really depends. And even if you say, what's the cost of living in New York? It depends on where you live in New York. So it
Absolutely.
depends on where you live in the
In
state,
Mexico.
in the town, in
Right.
the city,
Right.
right down to what neighborhood.
Right.
So
Right. And do you
it's a
want to
big,
live in the middle of convenience, or are you willing to be a little outside of that? Because I know that that's what it is here. It's kind of like
mhm,
the city is very close, but
mhm.
living on the outskirts just a bit, you're going to save yourself a lot of, money in general. And I think if that's your goal, then that's your goal. If you say, you know what, I just don't care, I want to live in the city, then you do that
Right.
too.
Absolutely. Drive
Yeah.
until you qualify, we used to say at home. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
the further out you go from the city, the more affordable.
Exactly.
I laugh because when I see people posting like their whole entire budget for the month is 1,000 or under or seven, I'm like, I don't know where these people are living because that
Mm,
can't be me. I have been mystified that people can live here with that budget. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But that
yeah,
it doesn't fit my criteria.
right,
So you
exactly.
can do it. That's the one thing I
Yes,
can say. You can live here on a shoestring budget.
yes.
And you can also spend as much money as in New York City. So
Okay,
it's that.
girl. We know all about that. We're always doing stuff, and it's a cash society, just to throw that on
Yes.
top. It really is more of a cash society than not. But I
Yeah.
wanted to say something about the shoestring budget thing, and then, yeah, we can gotta wrap it up a
Okay.
little bit. But the shoestring budget, um, I think, again, it does come down to what are you okay with? Like you said, I know that that would probably be really like difficult for me in some ways, but I think you can still kind of move and peg things around where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not going to just keep going out, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. But I remember, and I've shared this in some of my other videos, there was a young lady that stayed with us just for a little bit, but we helped her because she was our house sitter when we would go out of town. And we're like, we don't want to just leave our dog in a boarding thing. So we would pay her to stay here while we were out of town. But I remember she had to suddenly look for her own space. And I said, all
Mhm.
right, take your time, stay here. And I had a cutoff time. I was like, you stay here until whatever. Within the next 1 to 2 months, you know, you have to have a job, you have to find yourself. You're not going to be here indefinitely. And we went out and we were just like, calling numbers, knocking on doors that had signs. And this was good for me because I realized, as much as people have said living in Central cost a lot, there were
Mhm.
spaces that were not a lot. Like I remember we looked at a space, it was still too much for her, but I thought,
Mhm.
this is only $300 a month, and it was not bad. It was
Right.
actually like a pretty big efficiency, meaning because it was all open, but it was a big
Like a,
space.
oh,
Right. It just was
mhm.
like one big room. And the way the lady finished everything out, you walked in and there were maybe 4 units. And this space had like all the furniture in it already. It had a dining,
Mhm.
a bed, place to put your clothes. And then there was like a nice kitchen, nice sized kitchen. And then there was a little kind of like a studio in the back for if you wanted to write or be an office or whatever. And it was 6,000 pesos, which is about $300 a month. And I don't remember what it included. And it was very secure, and it was right in walking distance of Central.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, this is not a bad price for someone that it fits their budget. In the end, we ended up finding another space for this young lady, and it was tiny, but it
Right.
was also conveniently located on the same street. And
Mhm.
that was 3,000 pesos a month. That's $150.
That
And
is
it
in
was,
like, wow.
yeah, and it was tiny, and there was nothing to write home about. It was almost like, and this happens in Mexico, someone just took the sliver of their house and built like a wall, and suddenly it's like a
Warm,
little,
like,
It's an apartment with a, and they had like
Right.
this little, it was like everything was kind of just
Sure.
semi hodgepodge together. But I said to her, I said, you know what? I'm going to make it shiny for you, And I remember I called the guy that did some work for us and some painting, and because it was really tidy. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have him paint it because it was like a salmon color. And I was just like, it's too tiny for that color. It's dark in here. Just put white on the walls. And we put up like just some really cool curtains so she could have like a little bit of a room divider. But yeah, it was 3,000 pesos a
I'm shaking
month.
my head because the fact that you could find any place to put a roof over your head for that,
Yes. And it was
that's like,
really cute. It came out
see,
cute. It had a bathroom, it had a little sink in the kitchen, a little tiny cabinet. We put a couple shelves up so she could put her dishes on top. And then we had like and it came furnished. So they had like some stuff, and we're like, is it okay for us to paint it? And
mhm.
so everything kind of made sense. By the time it was all said and done, I was like, this is like a really cute apartment in New York City. It was
There
not
you go.
huge, but it was like really cozy. It had everything you needed, and it just opened up to the street. And now it's a store. That's how it's small, but now it's a store. The lady ended up turning into a shop because she moved back to Durango with COVID and everything. But my
Okay.
point is that there was the space that didn't look so appealing, right? Put a little bit of money into it, and then suddenly the rent is $150.
Insane. That is amazing.
US.
Yeah.
That would be
You
a
can't.
room for 1 week in someone's
I know.
house.
I'm like, no, that's like a daily for some people. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's
Yes.
something that you can do here. And
Mhm.
it's worth exploring for anybody who's on the fence or actually needs to have a better quality of life for the
Right.
money that you work so hard for, you
Exactly.
know?
I
Yeah.
really believe strongly in that. I think even if your budget is shoestring, I feel like it's always still easier to survive in this country than it is to
Oh,
back home,
and
because
yeah,
there's
hands
so much
down.
coming at you, medical, if you get sick, prescription costs, if you don't have insurance or proper insurance. There's just a lot coming at you. If you have a car, the payments for the insurance on that. And it's like, it just keeps coming at you, and it's hard to
Yeah.
get your head above water. So I always just tell people, like, still have a plan, don't think, like you said earlier, cheap, cheap, cheap. Think about it from like, okay, where can I go where I'm going to get the most for my budget and the most living, and also like stay on that shoestring if you have to. That's okay. I've
Yeah.
met plenty of people, especially women, single women that have moved here, and they're like, okay, I only have this amount, and they make it work. There's always like something that they found that fits them.
Sure. Absolutely. And it's about the quality of life. And
Yeah.
also, last point about where you're living, we're not supposed to just stay holed up in the four walls and a roof, right?
Oh,
So
exactly.
if you find a little spot that's $200 a month and it's so small, be out in the world,
Exactly.
enjoy your life. It's not like home was all about the house.
Right.
Here, it's all about the community. It's all about the people.
Right.
It's about getting good, going to restaurants. You can get massages here for $30, at 25 and $30 an hour. You can have a gardener. I get my clothes done by, someone else now because it's
Mhm.
cheaper.
Yeah.
So you have to put all your money into your property.
Right. Yeah, I just want
Everybody
people to
can.
know that, like, sometimes I used to say this in the beginning, like, I'm not bragging, but the services here are everything, like,
They
hands
really are.
down, everything, I mean, they are, they really are. And I appreciate them. I mean, even on Monday for a Day of the Dead, we had someone come to our house and do our face painting. And, I mean, they had them
Okay.
on the street. Yeah, it was,
That,
it was a lot of fun. This was my first time getting to
yeah,
celebrate this
yeah.
holiday. But yeah, it's like getting your
People
nails
concentrate on real estate a lot. Like those are the
done.
questions. Obviously, it's an important one. Where am I going to live?
Mhm.
But you come here and you're going to have more in your life than just the apartment or the house
Right.
that you live in. And you're going to find a quality of life that is
Mhm.
beyond the four walls and a roof. So if your budget is small, just put your feet on the ground,
Exactly.
see how you like living here, and
Mhm.
then life will open up, and hopefully work if you need to work, and you can make that happen. And you
Supplement a
know,
little bit, if you can even say, oh, let me, whatever, make $200 extra online or 300, it's going to help you out. And
that's right.
like I said, it goes much further in Mexico.
That's right.
Yeah, because you can still go out, you can eat, some inexpensive tacos and they're good, like eat whatever,
You
and
got
you
to
just be like,
stand.
yes,
Dollar stand in PV. Right here on my corner. Everything
yes.
is $1, including the margaritas, Michelle. Oh my God.
Wow. Wow, they're
Like
good.
they're good. $1 for taco each. It's
Uh,
amazing.
I
So,
love
yeah, you
it.
can do it on the cheap. You can definitely do it on the cheap.
Yeah.
But I'm still we say digital nomad. I'm still doing my online services here, so you can
Okay.
bring in that supplemental income, and
Okay.
not just feel like you have to come here if you've retired or you've sold your house and you're just going to live off of the proceeds.
Right.
You can still do that.
Mhm.
Become a resident, you get your work visa. If not, you still earn your money the way you would in the United States
Exactly.
online. So that's
Exactly.
been,
Get your money there and make
that's
it
right.
work for you here.
That's
That's the
right. Do what
goal.
you got to do, girl.
Exactly. Exactly. And I tell people that, I think the initial reaction is, oh, I got to make this much. Because, we have a lot that's kind of our focus on how exactly much money we're making a year in the US and whatever. Now, how do I transfer that over? The thing with Mexico is just what we said. It's less to live here. You still need income. You still need something because you don't want to get here and then find yourself in just like total uproar. But I think starting on that side and also focusing on, well, what would make my budget work, what's
Right.
going to be the right fit. And that's the thing I think that's most important to think about. It's not really just about trying to transfer the exact dollar amount that you made at a corporate job over to Mexico, because you
Right.
probably don't need that much, not that you
That's
shouldn't have
exactly right.
it, but
That's right.
it's just more about like, okay, how can I make sure that I'm still surviving and even probably saving, being able to
That's
save. Yeah,
Absolutely. And like you said, it's a cash society. So if this month you don't have it, then you just don't go out as much and you don't order
exactly.
as long as you got your rent covered, you can just chill for a month and
Exactly.
enjoy whatever it is that's available for free.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the ebbs and
Absolutely.
flows, you can do a lot better here than home.
Absolutely. Amen to
Mhm.
that. All right, Lisa. Uh,
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here talking to us, and I hope that you find your dream space wherever that is, long term
Thank you.
in
Thank you.
PV. And if I'm ever there, vice versa, you're ever in San Miguel, please do come through and
Absolutely. I
definitely let us
want to
know.
reach that. Okay. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye bye
Bye.
now.
Bye.